morning, all. So, we have started with the macroeconomics in the earlier introductory classes. So, we know what is microeconomics and macroeconomics. Uh, in this, let us understand, okay, before proceeding to the national income accounting chapter. So, we'll understand the basic concept of macroeconomics. Okay, so in order to understand the bigger picture, so we need to understand, we need to have some basic knowledge. Okay, so to understand the macroeconomics, let us ask few questions to ourselves. What generates the economic wealth of a nation? This is the first important question. What generates economic wealth of a nation? See, before we need to account or to calculate, so we need to have the wealth, right? So what generates the economic wealth? Okay, what make countries rich? We know so many rich countries are there, so many poor countries are there. Why they are poor? Why they are rich? How does this flow of production arise? So basically, the market, we need the things are produced and they are sold in the market, right? What happens to these commodities after being produced? It is the beginning process, right? After production, it has to reach the market and it should be sold over there. So what is final good? Why are we to measure the final goods only? Okay, let me give you a brief understanding about national accounting. So for a family, we can measure our income, right? So there are very few number of people in a family. So father may be working, mother may be working, or a son may be working. Some may not be working. So it is not that easy to take account of a family. Like what is the income of a family? But when we want to measure the income of a nation, okay, then what? How to measure it, right? So there are different ways of measuring that. Anyway, we are discussing in the coming sessions. But here, with respect to that, so if you want to count something, so why you are to measure the final goods only? So first we'll understand, then we will see actually what is the importance of final goods, right? Okay. See, it is not that the countries which are endowed with a bounty of natural wealth, minerals, or forest, or most fertile lands are naturally the richest countries. Is it so? So there are many countries, they are having so much of resources, but they may not be rich countries in the world. There are some countries which don't have any resources, still they are rich in the country. Okay. For example, if you take Africa, okay, it is having a lot of resources, right? Even Latin America, they are the poorest countries in the world. Even though they are having lot of resources, they are poor. But there are so many countries, they are prosperous, even though they don't have or very less natural wealth is there. Okay, so because there was a time actually, like when if the people used to feel like if the natural resources are available, then it will be the richest country. So if somebody is having land, he is the rich person, right? Let's take the small example. That notion was there. Just if you possess the natural resources, right? So he is considered as like rich. That is, easily we can produce something out of it. Take your own example. Earlier, if somebody is having a lot of land, okay, so he will be considered the richest. But you just think about it. Having land, but not able to produce anything out of it. So, how a person can become rich? The same is the condition with respect to countries. Okay, just by having natural resources, it is not possible to become rich. Then, how will we become rich? Mainly the production process. Production process. I am having land. I am having labor to work. I am having money to invest. I am having skill to do some business. But if these inputs are rightly transformed, means rightly used in an industry, okay, then we can produce output. It may be car, house, food, computer, whatever. But if it is not properly used, a country may be having too much manpower, but unemployment is there, nobody is having job. How actually the output will come? So it depends upon how we actually use these factors of production. We call these four factors as factors of production. Okay, what do you mean by that? In order to produce something, these factors are very, very essential. Others are there, but without this, it is impossible to generate anything. Even it may be a service also. So these four are very, very important. If you are running a school, land is there. Okay, teachers must be available, investment, and also the skill. Correct? The factors of production, how effectively it is used. Okay, that only we can see it is in the form of output. That output decides the wealth of a particular nation. Okay, the economic wealth, okay, or well-being of a country thus does not necessarily depend on the possession of resources. Then it depends on how these resources are used in generating a flow of production and how, as a consequence, income and wealth are generated from that process. So it is very much true. It is not by having just natural resources, but how actually the resources are being used, correct, in order to produce something and generate income. Now it is just by doing production, it is not over. How you are selling and making income out of it, correct, or creating wealth out of it. So I hope the first question what we asked is answered here. It is how we use the existing resources to make us to become wealthy or rich. The same thing can be applied to your studies also. Many people possess knowledge, correct? Mere reading of so many books and books, lot of study and study, that doesn't give them the output, correct? How effectively they are able to produce in the exam and get the marks, that is the return. Here income, money, their marks. If they are not able to get the marks, then having that resources, that knowledge is of no use, correct? So it is all about how effectively we utilize that production process here, or the transformation process matters. Okay, so next question comes. Okay, what we understood. So with the factors of production, the output that is taking as an input and output is given. How this production flow of production arises actually. Okay, so that is very clear here. People combine their energies with a natural and man-made environment within a certain social and technological structure to generate a flow of production. So very simple but powerful way of explaining this flow of production is, it is not just one thing. Okay, it is not about just a natural resource or just about people. It's about everything, the combination of their energies. So that is nothing but a labor with the natural and man-made environment, that is resources within certain social and technological structure. See, we are going to use the machines, correct, technology, so that the production can be increased. Okay, in that social setup, that is also important. The social structure should support that production, okay, to generate a flow of production, right? Okay, just you can see an example here. So here the raw materials, okay, so you can see that raw materials, then that raw material will be transformed, maybe like they are doing like initial shaping and cutting, and like smoothening, then processing using the machines, right, accurate like sharp processing, and finally assembling, and finally testing is done, and finally that final good is sent for market, means ready for selling. So it is just a symbolic. It may be a gold or ornament, or it may be a machine itself, or it may be a cloth. So the processes are like this. Okay, so how effective this process is to generate a quality material. See, that is also checked at the last. Correct. By doing that, okay, so that resource is converting as an income for the nation. Okay, so what happens to these commodities after being produced? That is the next question. Everyone knows that it is not a rocket science. After it is produced, okay, so basically it is sent to selling to the market. Okay, so it may be like very small item like pin button, right? The largest like aeroplane, automobile, correct, machinery, or it may be services like even like a teacher or a doctor, lawyer, financial consultant. So it may be a good or it may be a service being produced or sold to consumers. Okay, right. So we can see that the commodity market here. So commodity market, all the things, it may be a metal like gold or silver, or it may be sugar, or it may be anything. So actually a commodity market where the goods produced are put and actually sold, that is consumers, the production and consumption. The consumers are coming and buying the produced things, right? So here the moment we say market, okay, just by production, it is not complete. Without consumers, there is no meaning for this production. So that is a science. So how to match the needs of the consumers, what to produce, what not to produce, correct? So in Indian economic development, in the beginning we have discussed about this with respect to production in an economy. What to produce, what not to produce, who will decide whether it's a government or it is a market or it's a consumer, correct? So that we have discussed like different types of economy, social economy, capital economy, right? Anyway, coming back to this, so we know that consumer is very important in this process, in the flow of production, and after it is sent to market. Without consumer there is no meaning for this, correct? A consumer may in turn be an individual or an enterprise. Obviously a company may purchase something, or an individual may purchase something. So it may be a good or a service purchased by that entity, might be a final use or for use in the further production. Okay, what is the meaning of this? For example, for my family, I am purchasing a tea powder. Okay, I am going to use it for my final consumption. If I am a tea shop owner, I will I will purchase the same tea powder, but I am not using it for the final consumption. I will prepare tea and sell tea, correct? Sell tea to the market, right? So that is what is they are saying. When it is used in the further production, it often loses its character as the specific good, because now tea powder is no more a tea powder. So it is available as a tea, means for a drinking purpose, correct? So that original product will lose its characteristic, correct? So but it is used in the production of something, transformed through a productive process into another good. That is, tea powder is now converted as a tea, right? So some things are used for final consumption, some things are used in production of. I will understand actually what are the different type of goods, how actually we segregate that technicalities, will understand. So this here you can clearly see producers without consumers. Okay, this exchange, they give money to them and they give goods and service. So this completes actually the economy, means it includes both producers and consumers. Okay, if you take an example of for example cotton. Okay, to understand how actually the goods are in the different forms. A farmer produces the cotton and he usually sells it to whom? The spinning mill. There, okay, you can, yeah. So you can first see this, here, first organic seed cotton, which farmer grows. Then the fiber, right? Fiber is taken out of it. Then it is converted as a yarn. Then it is made as a cloth. Then coloring, everything is done, and finally it is made as a garment, correct? So which we can wear, right? So if you are wearing this, what is the, see, this is also good, this is also good only, but this is transformed into a t-shirt. This thread is transformed into a coat, right? So this fiber to fashion, right? We need to understand that a farmer producing a cotton, then it is sent to spinning mill, where the raw cotton undergoes transformation to yarn. Now this yarn in turn sold to textile mill, then yarn is converted to cloth. Then cloth is converted into shirt, shirt, pant, or whatever, correct? So here, this item is meant for final use. Sometimes it is for final use. For example, if you are using yarn itself as the final use, just assume that this thread itself is used to like a rakhi to tie it to someone. That is the final good, correct? If we are using it for final use, here if this cloth is for final use, further I am not using it. For example, this cloth is ready and I am using it as a handkerchief directly. So then it is a final good. But that cloth is transformed into t-shirt. Again, that cloth did not become a final good. Now the t-shirt become the final good, because after that we are not going to transform it. So basically, if the transformation is stopped at particular point, that will be considered as a final good. Okay, so without a transformation, means further transformation is not there, means that good can be considered as the final good. So according to this, anything can be a final good. See, this raw fabric itself is used for cleaning purpose or handkerchief, then this itself is the final good. But if it is converted into like dyeing, then t-shirt, now it is not a final good. Then what it is? Then it is an intermediate good. So I hope you are able to understand that. So more clear picture can be seen here. So cotton is grown, ginning is done, then spinning is done, yarn is converted, then sizing, you can see warping, then weaving, then dyeing, then printing on that cloth, finally finished goods. So this is final good. So please understand that anything can be final good. So if you are using it for the final use, that's what I want to say. See, here also it can be used for the final good. After dyeing also it can be used as the final good, correct? So yarn itself can be used as the final good, correct? We are using threads itself as a final good. So only way to understand whether this is a final good or not, whether the further transformation is there or not, based on that you have to see whether it is a final good or not. If still further processing is there, then it is not a final good. So as simple as that. Okay. So why we call this as a final good? Because once it has been sold, it passes out of the active economic flow. Okay. In a technical way, we'll understand what is final good. See, I gave the example of actually tea powder. If tea powder is purchased for my family purpose, then this is the final good. Why, sir? You are also using it for making tea in the home. But I am not selling the tea. From the economic flow where money is exchanged. The last money exchanged point is when I am buying the tea powder. After that, there is no exchange of money. That is why this tea powder is acting like a final good. Okay. Technically, now it is a final good. If I am a tea shop owner, I am purchasing tea powder, but still I am making it as a tea. Now I am selling the tea. Again, the exchange of money is there. So Now that is the final good, T. Please understand that. So the last exchange of money, that is the once it is sold, it is it is out of the economic flow. Means no more it is used for the money purpose. Means money will not be exchanged in the home, but in the tea shop the same thing will not be considered as a final good, because now tea is the final good. In home, even though tea is prepared, but it is not exchanged for money, so tea powder is the final good. I hope you are able to understand. So it will not undergo any further transformation at the hands of any producer in the economic flow concept. Earlier, general way we have understanding just about transformation, but here not about just transformation, it is also about economic exchange. Okay, so like as I said, however, it may undergo transformation by the action of the ultimate purchaser. In fact, such final goods are transformed during their consumption. Like I give in the home also, we prepare tea, but we cannot consider that as the final. Means I can say conceptually yes, it is, but in the concept of economy, where the final transaction for money change happens, then we can consider this a final good. Okay, with respect to concept, in case of transformation, so we can say that wherever it may be, that final product, that is here tea, even in home also considered as a final good. But as we are studying economy, the concept like economic concept says where the last transaction happening. Okay, so fine. So here now you can understand what is final good and what is intermediate good. Okay, so the final goods are those goods which are used for final consumption or for capital formation. Okay, but intermediate goods are those goods which are used as a raw material in the production of other goods in the same year. So same year is also important. Within that financial year, okay, that good must be used for final means transformation of something else. For example, R should be converted as a cloth in the same year. Now the yarn is considered as a intermediate good. Cloth is a final good. Suppose this year this yarn is not used for formation, means for production of the cloth, then yarn itself will be the final good. That is for calculation purpose, that we will see later. But here, so final use, and here that acts as a raw material for something else. The thread is acting as a raw material for cloth. Cloth is acting as a raw material for making shirt. That's why it is intermediate good. Okay. So national income. When we are counting national income, actually only final goods are counted. Here, these goods are not counted in the national income. I hope reason is simple. If people can easily say, if I'm adding this 10 rupees and converting after the clothes, so again you're adding 15 rupees, it is double counting, right? And if you see the cotton, here it is 5 rupees. The same cotton is converted as a cloth here. If you are keep on adding, instead of 15 rupees, it will become 30 rupees, correct? So if the intermediate goods are added, double counting will happen. Okay. So as I said, if this R is not produced as the cloth in the same year, in the calculation purpose, okay, so that is considered as like a final good for the calculation purpose. Because this has not happened, this 10 rupees itself will be added in the income calculation. Okay, don't worry too much about it. Just understand final goods are added in the national income. Value added. Okay, so they are ready to be used by consumer, correct? Final goods are ready to be used by the consumer. Okay, but for the intermediate goods, a value needs to be added before it can be used. Value need to be added. Then what type of goods we can say? This is a finished type of goods. The final goods are finished, means ready for use, right? They are unfinished, means yet to be some transformation, some value addition is needed. So obviously the example for final goods, sugar or clothes or anything, here you can say are correct. Or the same, see here they are using sugar used by household, sugar used by bakery. Now it is an intermediate good because they are producing something else, cake, correct? So sweets. like this, the same product can be final good, same product can be a intermediate good. So you need to understand that difference. Okay. So here already I have given this example. The tea leaves purchased by the consumer are not consumed in that form. They are used to make the drinkable tea. Correct? So similarly, most of the items which enter the kitchen are transformed to the process of cooking. But cooking at home is not an economic activity. That's what I explained. We prepare tea at the home, but this is not considered as final, means in the economic term, final good. Correct? Because we are not selling here. So that difference you must be able to understand. In the economic activity, the moment you want to say it's an economic activity, so you are supposed to exchange in terms of monetary value. You give and take money in return for that. So you have to understand this and this is simple, I know, but you have to remember that. Otherwise it will be okay, sir, in home also we are preparing tea, so that tea powder is a intermediate good if you say, sorry, because after that money is not exchanged. Okay. So if the same cooking is happening in the restaurant, automatically that is like, again, the economic activity is not ended. So it is still on because it is sold to customers. Then the same items such as tea leaves would cease to be final goods. Now the same tea leaves are not final goods because they are used to prepare the tea. So they are intermediate good. Okay. So you need to understand that just by seeing the good, you cannot say that it is a final good or intermediate good. So you need to say, if the final exchange is happening for the money, then you have to say that it is a final good. If not, it is still a intermediate good.